In the late 1700s, doctors had a cure for drowning victims. They would insert a tube into the victim's rectum and blow hot tobacco smoke directly inside them. This was not a fringe theory. This was the mainstream medicine. It had its own brass kit, sold in pharmacies, mounted on bridges along the Thames. The experts got it completely, catastrophically wrong. And they were absolutely certain they were right. Sound familiar? If you live with chronic pain, if you've been told it's in your head and that you're exaggerating, that you just need to push through it, you already know this feeling. Medicine has a long, embarrassing history of being dangerously wrong. Today, we're going to go through the 10 of the worst, and at the end, we're going to talk about why that history matters for every single chronic pain patient alive right now. Tobacco smoke, enemas. Let's start where we started. It's 1774, a person has just been pulled unconscious from the River Thames. The physician on the scene does not perform chest compressions, does not check for a pulse. He reaches for a brass kit mounted to the bridge railing. Inside that kit, a tube, a bellows, and a pouch of tobacco. The tobacco smoke enema was not a joke. The Royal Humane Society actively promoted it. Kits were installed along the Thames specifically for drowning emergencies, and the medical logic was that the nicotine was a stimulant, and the warmth of the smoke would restart respiration. It did not restart respiration. It did nothing except confirm that confidence and competence are two very different things. This is, by the way, the little origin of the phrase blowing smoke. You're welcome. Mumia. For approximately 500 years, from the 12th to the 17th century, European apothecaries sold ground up Egyptian mummies as medicine. It was called mumia. It was prescribed for headaches, stomach ulcers, internal bleeding, and bruising, and patients swallowed it or rubbed it on wounds. Doctors recommended it with the same confidence your physician recommends ibuprofen today. When the supply of actual ancient pharaohs began running low, because apparently there's a finite number of Egyptian mummies, the market responded logically. They started grinding up recently deceased peasants and selling them instead. 5 centuries, mainstream medicine ground human remains. The experts were certain. The patients paid the price. Heroin for coughs. In 1898, the Bayer Corporation, the exact same company that makes the aspirin in your medicine cabinet right now, synthesized a new compound and brought it to market. They named it heroin. Trademark registered, it was sold over the counter as a non-addictive cough suppressant. Marked as a safe alternative to morphine. Recommended for children with respiratory infections. Simultaneously, pharmacies were selling a product called Mrs. Winslow's Soothing Syrup, specifically designed to help teething babies sleep through the night. The active ingredient was morphine. Not a trace of morphine, not a hint of morphine, a heavy therapeutic dose of morphine. These were not back alley remedies. These were mainstream pharmaceutical products, advertised in newspapers, recommended by physicians, trusted by parents. The experts were certain. Gladiator blood. Ancient Rome had a genuine neurological problem on its hands. Epilepsy and seizures were terrifying and completely misunderstood. The medical establishment needed a solution. Their solution was to consume warm blood of a freshly killed gladiator. The logic was called sympathetic magic. By ingesting the vitality and strength of a fierce warrior, the patient would absorb those qualities, and the weakness causing the seizures would be overpowered. Roman physicians were not uneducated. They were the scientists of their era. They observed, they theorized, they published, and they arrived at drink gladiator blood. It is worth noting that epilepsy is a manageable neurological condition. It has nothing to do with the vitality or gladiators, but that would take another 1,800 years to establish. Radium water. In the early 1920s, radioactivity was the hottest wellness trend on the market. Before science fully understood radiation poisoning, companies sold Radithor, distilled water infused with live radium isotopes. It was marked as a high-end energy tonic that cured fatigue and impotence. It was expensive. It was fashionable. It glowed faintly in the dark. A wealthy industrialist named Eben Beers drank it. Approximately 1,400 bottles of Radithor over 3 years. He was an enthusiastic advocate. He wrote letters recommending it to his friends. Eventually, the radium began dissolving his bones from the inside. His jaw had to be removed. Most of his skull followed. He died in 1932, weighing 92 pounds. Wall Street Journal ran the headline, "The radium water worked fine until his bones fell off." The expert had been certain. I need you to stop for a second because these stories are funny and they're supposed to be. The tobacco enemas, the mummy powder, the glowing radioactive water. They're absurd. They sound like something from a comedy sketch. But I want you to notice something. In every single one of these cases, there was a group of patients experiencing real suffering, real pain, real symptoms that medicine could not explain. And in every single case, the medical establishment responded with absolute confidence that they had a theory, that they had the treatment, that they were certain. They were wrong. And the patients paid the price. I have CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome. It's a neurological condition that causes constant severe pain. Pain that is objectively measurable, physically real, and frequently dismissed by the medical system as an exaggeration. I have been told it's in my head. I have been told to push through it. I have doctors look at my chart, look at me, and decide I was the problem. That is not ancient history. That happens to me. That is happening to chronic pain patients right now today. While you watch this video, you are not done with the list. We have 5 more, and they get worse. But when we come out the other side, I'm going to show you exactly what the pattern is. Because there is a pattern, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Trepanation is the practice of drilling a hole through the human skull. It is one of the oldest surgical procedures ever recorded. Evidence of trepanation, if I'm saying this right, has been found in ancient Mesoamerica, Neolithic Europe, and even medieval Asia. The tools varied: sharp stones, hand-cranked drills, bronze instruments, but the principle was constant. The logic was that migraines or erratic behavior or even mental illness were caused by evil spirits or bad air trapped inside the skull. The hole was the exit route. There is a remarkable part that archaeologists have found ancient skulls showing bone regrowth around those drilled holes. That means the patient survived. Some of them, and procedure was done multiple times. Survived multiple skull drillings with stone tools, without anesthesiology. The human body is astonishing. The theory behind the procedure was still completely wrong. Before penicillin, the medical world had a universal answer to infectious disease. That answer was mercury. For syphilis especially, mercury was the standard care for centuries. It was applied as an ointment, swallowed as a pill, or heated and inhaled in vapor in a sealed sweat box. Patients sat in those boxes for hours, breathing mercury fumes, sweating profusely, often losing their teeth and their hair in the process. The treatment was considered a success if the patient survived it. China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, consumed liquid mercury directly. Convinced it was an elixir of immortality, historians believe the mercury poisoning accelerated his death. and may have contributed to the increasingly erratic behavior that marked the final years of his reign. He died at 49, seeking immortality. Those experts were certain. The half-most cure. The Elizabethan England had a specific remedy for childhood ailments: whooping cough, measles, warts, and general childhood illness. The treatment was to catch a live mouse, cut it in half, and press the bloody side against the affected area of the child's skin. The belief was that dying creature would absorb the illness out of the patient, a transfer of disease from human to animal. The mouse was a sacrifice. The child would be healed. This was not a rural folk remedy practiced in some remote village. This appeared in mainstream medical texts. It was recommended by physicians. It was practiced by educated, literate people who generally believed that they were helping. They were certain. Crocodile dung birth control. Ancient Egyptians was, by the standards of its time, medically sophisticated. Egyptian physicians understood anatomy, practiced surgery, and documented their treatments in what their oldest medical text ever discovered, the Quan Genealogical Papyrus, written approximately 1800 BCE, is one of those texts. It is a remarkable document, detailed, organized, clinical, and it also prescribes a contraceptive that was made by mixing honey, fermented dung, and fresh crocodile, or fermented dough and fresh crocodile feces. Here is the strange part. The acidity of the crocodile dung may have actually had some limited spermicidal effects. The Egyptians may have accidentally stumbled onto something that was particularly worked by a mechanism they did not understand, using a material they selected for entirely the wrong reasons. The infection risk was catastrophic. The logic was completely incorrect. But somewhere in the mess of wrong reasoning, there was a fragment of accidental usefulness. This is more than we can say for most of this list. For over 2,000 years, from Hippocrates in the ancient Greece through the Victorian era, the dominant theory of human health was this: 4 fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Health is balance. Illness is imbalance. If you ever had a fever and you had too much blood, the treatment was straightforward. Remove the blood. Slice open a vein. Apply leeches. Drain the patient until the fever broke, until they lost consciousness, or until they died, whichever came first. Humoral therapy was not a fringe idea. It was a consensus. It was taught in medical schools. It was practiced by the most educated physicians in the Western world for 2 millennia. George Washington, one of the most medically attended individuals of the era, died in 1799 after his physician drained approximately half the blood in his body, attempting to treat a throat infection. The bloodletting did not cure the infection. It killed him. 2,000 years mainstream medicine. The most educated practitioners on the earth. Completely wrong. Lethal. And they were absolutely certain. 10 treatments. 10 cases of absolute medical certainty. 10 examples of the smartest, most educated practitioners of their era. Completely, catastrophically wrong. Here's the pattern I promised you. In every single case, there was an unexplained condition, a pain, an illness, or suffering that medical framework of time could not adequately explain. And in every single case, the response was not humility. It was not, we don't understand this yet. The response was a confident theory of prescribed treatment and an absolute certainty Bert was correct. The patients who pushed back, who said this doesn't feel right, something's wrong, were dismissed because the expert was certain. Chronic pain patients in 2026 are still living inside that pattern. CRPS is a documented, measurable neurological condition. It is not psychological. It is not exaggeration. The pain is real. The physical changes are real. the science is real, and yet patients are still being told they're the problem. I'm not saying that modern medicine is equivalent to tobacco enemas. Modern medicine is extraordinary. The science is better than it has ever been in humanity's history. But the pattern, the confident dismissal of unexplained pain, the pattern has not changed as much as we should have had it change. Knowing this, history does not fix CRPS. It does not stop flare-ups. It does not change what happens in the doctor's office on a bad day. But it does remind us of something important. The experts have been wrong before. They will be wrong again. You are not the problem. So 10 medical cures, 5 centuries of mummy powder, 2 millennia of scheduled bloodletting, 1 imperial emperor who drank liquid mercury in pursuit of immortality, George Washington bled out by the best physicians in America, babies given morphine syrups to help with teething, a full brass kit mounted to the bridge, specially for tobacco smoke enemas. Medicine has come a long way. Just something to keep in mind the next time someone tells you your pain isn't real. Any of this hit home. If you live with chronic pain or you love someone who does, subscribe to this channel because we are just getting started. Next, we're looking at white willow bark and the discovery of aspirin, which is one of the most fascinating stories in the history of medicine, and one that chronic pain patients should absolutely know. And drop a comment. Tell me which one of the 10 shocked you the most. I already know what most of you are going to say. It's the mouse, isn't it? See you next time.